Howdy folks. Today I'm going to do a beginning to end installation of my T-Shank adapter. So I had a customer recently message me that my video of the T-Shank adapter shows me taking out one of my earlier prototypes and installing the newest version. So what we're going to do with this is actually a installation I'm doing as part of my custom install service. This is a service I offer where if you're purchasing my parts, you can ship me your free P4 and I'll do the installation for you. That saves you having to buy the screws, the taps, cutting down the file, and all those sorts of things. So basically I'm going to be converting this customer's tool with the T-Shank adapter, the scalpel holder, and the flat bit holder. So his tool will be pretty much exactly the same as mine. I also have kept the serrated blade and have my thumb tab on there. So this is the stock P4 for the customer. And when we take out to install the T-Shank adapter, it is thicker than the regular blade. So you do have to remove one thin implement, keeping 3 others. In this case, I'm going to be removing the can opener. Alright, so let's get started. What you will need is a 1/8 inch drill bit. This is to remount the holes to make sure that these holes are perfectly sized to fit. And then you'll need 2 T9 Torx bits, a M2 by 5 millimeter long metric socket head screw. I recommend the strong alloy screws. And then you'll need a teeny tiny M2 tap. Now I recommend both the drill bit and the tap be titanium nitride coated. If not, make sure you're using a good amount of oil. This is stainless steel with bronze as an amalgam. It's actually quite hard to machine. Now in this case, the customers actually ordered both the regular version and what I call the mirrored version. And that depends on which side you want to install. So in this case, he wants to replace the saw, which is going to be the regular version. Stop rolling around over there, Mr. Husky. If you want to replace the serrated blade, you'd buy the mirrored version. Or if you want to replace the scissors. In this case, I'll be refunding this part back to the customer, and then I'll have one available to ship. Since he can't do that, you can't install 2 T-Shanks into the same tool due to that thickness. The customer also sent me a wood saw blade that he wanted. That was when he wanted 2 T-Shanks, so I'm not sure if he wants me to cut that down or not. I'll find out from the customer. Okay, so let's get started. So first step is make sure you got your saw located. You want to remove. So you're opening the correct side of the tool. Put a T9 against here and hold. And again, yes, I know I haven't got a proper tool stand to hold this, but apply pressure while you're unscrewing this. Once you figure out which end is the screw and which end is the shoulder screw, basically which one's male, which one's female, in this case, this little is the screw end. It's hard to see. But you basically want to make sure you're removing the screw and not the entire shoulder piece. Now there will be thread locker on there. Shows up here in red. That's to hold the amount of torque that they put in at the factory. When you're installing these, there will be, obviously you'll end up retorquing it just by hand. I've actuated mine literally thousands of times and have had no issues with needing to reapply any thread locker. Okay, so the little screw's out. We'll put that in our little cup here. And what we're going to do is use the Torx bit to push the shoulder screw out. I'm keeping my finger behind the shoulder screw so I don't push it too far. And then what we're going to do is pull out the blade. And inside there is going to be a very tiny washer. In this case, it slipped out over here. Usually it goes and sticks to the magnet. That thick washer you will not need. The T-Shank adapter has it built in right here. And then we'll go ahead and remove the can opener. Then I'm going to take the spring, I'm going to scoot it over, and I'm trying to not basically take apart the entire tool. So if I look in here, the shoulder screw is sitting right up against there, and then the spring's just pushed over like that. So I got plenty of room for the T-Shank adapter. Now I probably should have done this ahead of time. I always get ahead of myself and take the tool apart before I actually prep the piece that goes in. But we'll just set that aside, make sure we don't bump that too much. So what I'm going to do is first make sure this fits on a 1/8 inch drill bit. It does. I do not need to ream it out. Sometimes there's a little bit of powder and things in there. In this case, no problem at all. So these two holes are the two holes that need to be tapped. Actually, the two on the back side, sorry, these two are clearance holes. I've tried to size these so that they work without having to do a very hard tap, which means you can do it with a hand drill. Set your drill to low. We're going to put a drop of oil on our drill bit, or on our tap, I mean. And then very slowly just tap the hole. We'll zoom in here. And then repeat for the other hole. Now this is a very skinny tap, so you're going to want to make sure while you're doing that you're doing your absolute best to not be putting any sort of sideways torque, or you can just snap the tap, of course. Alright, now we'll get in there and clean that up. Let's grab a wire brush. Alright, these are our tiny 2mm screws. Guess I will need to find myself a bit to fit those. Let's see here. There we go. That is a T1.5. Or actually not T, just hex 1.5. Just right now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that these thread in, and then that clamps. You don't actually thread them in until you install your T-Shank bit, because what these screws do is they actually straddle that T-Shank and on either side. Looks like they fit nicely. Okay, so we're ready to install this. So all we've got to do is drop it in, make sure that that hole gets lined up, push the shoulder screw back in, make sure that you can see the shoulder screw through there. The shoulder screw is actually going to end up needing to be flush. So here's one of the things that happens to a lot of people. You see this hole right there is not lined up. So open the tool, push that in, make sure that that gets lined up. If you can't squeeze it all the way through, you got these two holes kind of fighting against each other. The easiest thing to do is to take the screw that holds it together and switch back to my T9 bit. So take the screw that holds it together, get it started, and then while pushing from the back side, kind of wiggle this around. You might need to actually push in different directions until you get that to fully lock in. Feels like it's fully locked now. This is flush. So both of those are flush. Oh, this side popped out now. So that's the tricky part, is that piece is spring loaded. Oh, there it goes, now it's flush. All right. While holding this together, finish tightening that screw. The screw's spinning on the back side, so now I'm going to need to drive this from both sides. Way too much tension. So we'll back this off half a turn, maybe a quarter turn at a time. Okay, that's locked. But still a little tight. There we go. Make sure all the blades pop out. All right, now we need to modify and cut down our diamond file. For that, we're just going to use a Dremel with a cutoff wheel. You don't want to try to use a hacksaw. This is about as hard as a hacksaw because it's also a file. So you definitely need something like an abrasive cutoff wheel. So what we're going to head and do is insert this, and we'll bring this to close. In this case, let's go ahead and put the screws in just loosely for now, at least one of them, so that that's held in. There we go. And we'll close this, but obviously you can't finish closing. So what we need to do is we need to clear this little cutout here. So what we'll do is we'll grab a Sharpie, and we will mark where we want to do this. And basically this notch is where I'm going to do the cut. I'm just going to mark that there, then we'll come straight across as much as possible. There we go. Now for the sake of the video, I'm going to do this on my glass table here. I would normally do this with a vise. Actually, let me see. I do have one small vise I can use maybe for this. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the tool from the Leatherman so that we don't get all the dust and everything in there. And these are the parts that we have left over. So we have the saw, the can opener, and then this is the thick washer. This thick washer usually sits between the saw and the scale because these scales have a little inset. We'll set those parts aside and I'll ship those back to the customer in case they ever want to reinstall them. Alright, let's zoom out. Alright. So again, abrasive cutoff wheel, and then we're just going to cut across that line and get some safety glasses. Make sure you got your safety glasses. First, score the line. I kind of forgot about that. I need to cut from the other side because what's happening right now is the diamonds are winning against the other blade. So let's see here. Let's move these marks over to the other side. Alright, that's cut. I'm going to go ahead and use the edge and round this off a little bit. Alright, careful, it's going to be very hot. Now, if you want, you could actually kind of bevel this, give yourself a little bit of a chisel edge if you want. But that's just the kind of square cut. And then it's beveled in just a little bit here. Now we just need to install the screws. Because it's holding the T-Shank being captured back there, it doesn't actually need a whole lot of clamping force to do its job. Now I have had a little bit sometimes where this is hitting the pliers, and you can either bend the file, so I'll actually go back to a vise, bend this back a little bit. For that I'll have to go back to the benchtop vise to get a little bit more effort behind it. Alright, so we're going to bend it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and put a dot right here. So that's just got a little bit of bend. Let's put it up against a straight line here so you can see. And now that perfectly clears. There we go. I think we're going to tighten this just a hair so it's equal to the other side. Switch off. There we go. Same feel as the other side. So now we got a Leatherman free P4 with a diamond file, crosscut file, and it's actually got an edge file too. By the way, you do want to install it preferably with the edge file facing in. That way, when you have this deployed, you can use the edge file like this. And then it has the diamond file facing out. There we go. Thanks for watching.